Hello, this is Stealing Gizmo, and this will be a playthrough of The Consuming Shadow, a game by Yahtzee Croshaw. Now, a lot of you probably recognise Yahtzee from the Zero Punctuation series of reviews, but before then he was known more as an independent game designer. Most particularly, he was known for the Chazot Mythos series of point-and-click horror games. And The Consuming Shadow does draw a lot of inspiration from the Chazot Mythos, also from the works of H.P. Lovecraft, and specifically the game Eternal Darkness, which itself was very heavily inspired by Lovecraft. Now this is just going to be a quick introduction, quick 15-minute video just to show how the game works here. Now I'll go into more detail later, but we've got one of 4 characters, and our aim is to save the world from an eldritch god invasion at the last possible second. In the Scholar's case, he's the default character, and we have 60 hours to save the world. Now, as a trademark of Yahtzee's games, there's a lot of writing, most of it is very good. I would encourage you to pause and read if you wish to, it's all very good. But for now we'll begin our journey. We do have the option there to kill ourselves. I don't think we need to do that right now. I think we can just begin the journey straight away and carry on. Okay, and we have our base of operations here, our car, which we'll travel around the country in, trying to banish eldritch beasts. We have our phone, which received a text from the Ministry of Occultism, and no name signed on it, but just giving us some information about a good place to start our investigations. Now we have other things in the car off to the left. We have our essentials, our medikit, and we also have the 2 important books here. A clue book. Now I'll summarise on the left here. We have to find which god is going to invade us, and there will always be 3 gods: the invader, the one who's insisting the invader, and a third one who is interfering for vague eldritch god reasons. And the main thing we have to do is find the parts of the banishing ritual, which, like all spells in the game, will consist of those 5 runes, or parts of those 5 runes there. Much like Eternal Darkness makes spells out of each individual rune, and that's how we do magic. We've also got an inventory, which is empty at the moment, and a syringe of hard drugs, which I'll go into more detail about what that is later. Now here's a map of the UK. I'm going to go straight to our nearest place, Blessham, which is marked red. That means it's going to be a hostile town. You can also find neutral towns or specific mission-given towns, like Dinport. We've got a message which tells us to go to Dinport if we can manage it. I'll go into that in more detail later. Now, as is usual with Yahtzee games, there's a lot of writing, and the majority of it is very good indeed. Again, I would insist on pausing the video if you want to read it in more detail. But in short, this one is telling us the type of mission we're going to do. In this case, we are going to clear out a building of some nefarious force that's there. And to be honest, in this playthrough, this is actually the first time I've seen this domestic terrorist pop up. They get a lot of repeating ones, but this is the first time I've seen this one. So there's always something new in this game. But this is our first gameplay section. Now, it's a very simplistic game. A lot of depth to it, but it's very simplistic at the start. It's 2D Explorer. You can walk left and right, go up and down. As you can see in the map in the corner, it'll send you to either north or south direction. And we already come across our first enemy. Seems harmless enough, but they get a lot worse. Now we do start off with a gun, with a full clip of ammo, but you can also swat enemies away, which is the most common attack, and you'll see why, because we're going to go a bit trigger happy in this part here. A lot of monsters to get first time in the game, but we deal with them pretty easily. But we've also used up all of our ammo, which is a problem, of course. But we do get a lucky charm out of it, which we can equip straight away, and does allow us to pick up more loot. And we also get our objective, because that was our objective, to clear out the next, and we get our first clue, which tells us very plainly that Nyx is not the invading god, which you don't normally get ones that obvious, especially straight off the bat, so got very lucky with that. And now we can use this table to remind ourselves and sort of aggregate clues in this one bit. Now, there are some things that are always the same. There'll always be the 3 gods, and they'll all have different definitions and other aspects. So, you know, different colours, different runes signifying them, whether they represent madness or disease or so on. Now, we've technically finished this dungeon, but I'm going to carry on, see if there's anything else I can find. It's always good to clear it out if possible. Now, we've got a bigger fly. We've taken our first, well, not our first hit, but we have taken a bit of damage off it there, and obviously it takes away health, also a little bit of sanity, which is a problem. And we get another inventory item, again very lucky first level. That one prevents anxiety, which is a status ailment that makes us less accurate. So we're not going to see that. In fact, spoiler, we're not going to see any status ailments. That can come later. But yeah, as I said, melee is going to be our main tactic, because bullets, there's no reliable flow of bullets. You won't always have enough bullets in your gun. You can buy them at towns, but again, it's not reliable if you'll come across a friendly town, or even if they'll have the type of bullets you want there, or if you've got enough cash for them. So melee is often the way to go, but that does have its own problems. As you can see, it's very short range, and it's very hard to not get hurt while doing melee. But sometimes you just have to do it. You can also run away from the room, but that causes its own problems. But we've pretty much cleansed, bless them, taken care of the problem that occurred there. So now we're going to carry on to Sorton in this case. Now you can see at the bottom there's Stonehenge marked in a red dot. That is our overall destination. That's where we need to go eventually. But in the meantime, we're getting a text from T at the Ministry of Occultism. If you've played the Jazo Mythos, you might be able to work out who that is, but I'm not going to mention anything else at the moment. And also random is random events. It's a very roguelike game in that instance. Now, there's always the option to walk away from these random encounters, and most time nothing bad will happen. In this case, I thought I'd try to go inside, and it is, as far as I can tell, a random chance as to what will happen, whether it would be a good or a bad outcome. Occasionally you can get items to ensure a good outcome, and in this case we were lucky. We got a clue to another location we can investigate later. But for now I'm going to continue to Sorton and see what's going on here. Now, as we go into town, again, I'll let you read the information if you wish to, because it's very well written, I have to say. But I'm not the type of person who reads out these sort of things. I prefer to let the person read it in their own voice, because they are sort of mini novels. Of course, Yahtzee is actually a published novelist. I think he's written 2 novels, I think. I've never read any of them. I should really look into them in the future. But for now we have our second dungeon, and this time taking place in what seems to be an abandoned building site? I can't really tell. But yes, occasionally you'll find bodies, and you'll find other enemies, such as this lovely wall-crawling spitter, which I'm having a lot of difficulty with. Now you'll notice here, you can actually avoid damage by smacking away some of the spit, which is disgusting. It doesn't make much sense, but, you know, take good circumstances where you can. Now here's another type of clue. Sometimes you'll see magic runes painted on the wall in a certain colour, and you can try and use that to discern whether or not a god is a certain colour or aspect or so on. Now also this gives me a chance to discuss the different types of ammo. As well as the standard 9mm, you do get armour piercing rounds like I've got here. They don't actually do more damage, but they can pierce through certain types of armour. And the third type is a hollow point round, which is just more powerful. It just does more damage. I think it can take care of most enemies in 1, maybe 2 bullets. But yeah, the runes on the wall can be quite common. There's multiple iterations of them. Now here's our first human enemy, which I take care of far too quickly. I was meant to keep him around a little bit and explain him, but we find another one later on, so we can explain that more when we see him again. But yeah, all the maps are randomly generated. You'll go through, and some rooms have items, some rooms have enemies. A lot have both. And again, very quickly, we come to our objective. which in this case is part of the banishment ritual. We need to get rid of the god. You can see it updated at the bottom there. And we could also try out a bit of the magic system, just throwing some random runes, and that was very foolish, as the game says. It was painful, and it's done a real number on our sanity meter, which isn't good. Sanity is very hard to repair. Now, come to cultist round 2, giving them a bit more of a fighting chance, and I'm regretting it because you can't get through the shield in normal means, and they will also pull off magic. They actually do know their magic. I thankfully had a few armor piercing rounds there, so I was able to take care of them. They're actually very squishy once you get past the armor. But for a first time player, they're very difficult to figure out. Not really sure what you're meant to do the first time round, but as I hope to demonstrate later, there are ways around it. Now, this was the mission we were given earlier, to go to Dinport, in this case to pull off a delivery. There are different types of missions that occur. Sometimes you're sent in to do a regular dungeon, to take out specific enemies, and as you'll see by this mission, this is simply to just arrive at the town within the time limit, and you'll get a random amount of money after the fact. Now, come to our first friendly town, Dinport, has not been turned yet. Now, in the safe towns you can search for ammo or supplies, or if you need to, you can visit the hospital to take care of any... Yep, so as you can see, we've reached our first friendly town, Dinsport, as of yet still a regular town. Now, in the safe towns we can search for ammo or supplies, we can visit the hospital if you have any injuries that we need to take care of. To be honest, I'm not feeling too good. I have a bad feeling about this town, can't quite put my finger on it, so I'm just going to buy some hard drugs and get out of here, and continue on the road. Carry on down to Stonehenge, but we can only select the towns in our immediate area, so let's go to Twineholm. I believe that was called. And yeah, there's a lot of driving. Thankfully it's sped up, and you'll get interrupted by things like this. Some of the text can have negative consequences. We've been lucky enough not to see them yet, but in this case, in this playthrough, we've just received positive reinforcement and the odd bit of money, which is always nice. But we are unfortunately back in an infected town, and we have to take down, in this case, a Mason-like secret society. And this mission, if I remember correctly, takes place in what seems to be a regular suburban house, even though it says it's a high-class manor. It does look like a very regular house. So there are different types of environments that all have different outcomes. Now, here's me trying out lockpicking. As you can see, you've got a limited amount of picks. Your percentage of success at the bottom there does change with how many tries you attempt, but in this case it did not work, and it's normally a fool's errand. There are better ways to get into locked doors. And we have more pressing issues like an invisible enemy, who's annoying and seems to have cut us quite deeply, which is very annoying. You can see at the status ailment to the bottom there, we are in fact bleeding. This won't affect us in the house, but once we get back in the car, we will keep losing health until we find a hospital. In good news, we have found a set of keys, which is the best way around locked doors. It is random, but most places do have a key ring laying about, so you can just use that to get through locked doors. And we have another clue, again another very obvious clue, which names the other two gods that we are dealing with. Chazo and Yushk, which I'm probably mispronouncing that quite badly, but we know the names of the three gods. We still don't know who's doing what. We don't know which one's invading and which one is presumably allied with the invader, but more information is always good. Now, having a bit of trouble with this guy. I'm trying to conserve some ammo, and it's not working out too well for me, but luckily the fly was carrying some pocket money, so I can go buy some sweets later. That's quite nice. Now, these are normally the sort of clues we get. The more vague, in this case, that the yellow is connected with the concept of pain, and that can be helpful in narrowing down our suspects, because you can cross-reference it with other clues and fill out the table there. I've got a good feeling about that. Nope, sorry, spoke too soon. Yep, we are indeed dead. So yeah, that was just a short playthrough, just to give a taste of how this all works, and we get a little debrief at the end here. Got the worst ending, which of course is dying. Dying is never good. And we do get a nice little rundown of what we got up to on the right there, and a date and time given. So yeah, that was the first episode, the introduction to the Consuming Shadow. I hope that's been a good introduction, and I hope to see you on another video. Thank you for watching.